You've probably seen the clips, a heavyset guy from Long Island, leaning back in a chair, delivering a monologue about pharmaceutical lobbyists or the collapse of the American middle class. And somehow, inexplicably, you're laughing. Maybe it was the bit about cruise ships. Maybe it was the breakdown of how a regional Applebee's manager thinks. Maybe it was the 15-minute rant about people who moved to Austin, Texas. Whoever Tim Dillon is, he clearly has victims, but not in the way you'd expect. Today we're going in on the targets, the institutions, the celebrities, the industries, and the general vibe of modern American life that Tim Dillon has systematically destroyed on stage, on his podcast, and increasingly on the national stage. This is the many victims of Tim Dillon. Who is Tim Dillon? Before we get to the victims, we need to understand the perpetrator. Tim Dillon grew up in Island Park, New York, a small town on Long Island. By his own account, his upbringing was equal parts working-class Catholic guilt and controlled chaos.
Last year, my family did like a Zoom dumb thing, or they did a Zoom Easter. Oh. Not last year, but a few months ago. Right. They did a Zoom Easter.
His mother struggled with addiction. His family was not wealthy. And Tim himself, by the time he was in his 20s, was dealing with his own addiction issues, working as a tour guide in New York City, and slowly figuring out that stand-up comedy was the one thing that made the chaos in his brain feel like an asset rather than a liability. He got sober. He moved to New York to pursue comedy. He was not an overnight success. He grounded out on the club circuit for years, developing a style that was immediately distinct from the crowd. Where a lot of comedians of his generation were doing tight, personal, confessional sets, the kind of emotionally honest storytelling that was in vogue, Tim was doing something different. He was doing big picture, macro, societal. He sounded less like a stand-up and more like a mob boss.
My personal trainer slash DJ, friends, comes up to me and he goes like this. He goes, yo, bro, it's pretty fucking simple. You gotta see yourself as the world sees you. And that's the job you do.
Who had just read a Noam Chomsky book and was furious about it. His first major national exposure came through the Joe Rogan Experience, where he appeared multiple times and became a fan favorite almost instantly. Rogan, who has introduced millions of people to hundreds of comedians over the years, seemed genuinely delighted by Tim. Here was someone who shared his suspicion of institutions, but delivered it through the lens of performance, dark humor, and theatrical outrage. Tim's own podcast, The Tim Dillon Show, launched around 2019 and quickly built one of the most devoted audiences in the podcast space. It now regularly ranks among the top comedy podcasts on every platform. He's also done stand-up specials, has appeared on mainstream platforms, and has accumulated millions of followers across social media. He is, without question, a major voice in American comedy right now, and he has left a trail of victims behind him, the wealthy. The first and perhaps most frequent victim of Tim Dillon is the wealthy. Not wealthy in the abstract, not the 1% as a political slogan.
There's a lot of people in Russia that you don't know who they are, and they have tons of power and wealth, and Putin mediates conflicts between those people, and those are like feuding oligarchs, and Putin will sit them both down and go, okay.
Wealthy specifically, the guy who just closed a Series B funding round for an app that delivers organic smoothies via drone.
They're not even realtors yet. They're in the process of becoming real estate agents. Like, they have a license, but they don't have any clients and no money.
The woman who is passionate about disrupting legacy industries while living in a $4,000 a month apartment in Williamsburg.
That you can live on the side of a highway and have socks and fucking peanut butter, and that's everything you need. What are you talking about?
The venture capitalist who is building the future and buy the future means a slightly worse version of something that already exists, but now it has a subscription model.
Like cheap wood, plastic, crap apartment buildings, and then putting them next to a fucking TJ Maxx so you can go in and buy underwear.
Tim Dillon has an almost anthropological fascination with this class of people. He doesn't just mock them, he performs them. He does voices. He does their cadences, their jargon, their confidence.
There's a gym and a pool and Whole Foods. You have everything you need. What about for your soul?
He does a version of the tech entrepreneur who has clearly never had a hard day in his life, but speaks about pivoting and failing fast and building in public as if he survived a war. He does the hedge fund guy who is vaguely worried about systemic risk, but not worried enough to stop buying a third vacation property. He does the influencer who has monetized their personality to the point where they no longer seem to have one. What makes Tim's attacks on the wealthy so effective is that he doesn't come at them from pure resentment.
So London has kind of gotten all these trends first, right?
Right.
It's become this playground for wealthy criminals.
He comes at them from bewilderment. He seems genuinely confused and deeply amused by the gap between how these people see themselves and what they are actually doing. He said versions of this many times. These are people who got extremely lucky, extracted enormous resources from systems they didn't build, and then developed elaborate philosophies to explain why that was actually merit. That's not a left-wing critique, and it's not a right-wing critique. It's something more fundamental. It's a comedian looking at the emperor and saying, out loud, that he's not just naked, he's also a little stupid and has bad taste in restaurants. The media, the second major victim, is the media. Again, not media in the vague sense.
Stop posting libertarian memes if you live with your mother. Stop talking about how bad socialism is if you live with your mother.
Specific media. Specifically, the version of media that emerged in the 2010s alongside social platforms and content metrics. The think piece industrial complex, the outrage loop, the publication that publishes 17 articles a day about what a celebrity's Instagram post reveals about our cultural moment.
Social media has gotten to the point where I'm on it all day and I'm like, I'm not having any fun.
No.
It's really gotten to the point where, what is this experience?
Tim Dillon is particularly vicious about the performative sincerity of a certain strain of journalism, the kind that packages conventional wisdom as radical insight, that takes the temperature of Twitter and reports it as the temperature of America, that is elevated taking something personally to the status of a political act.
Facebook is a nightmare. It's elderly people screaming at each other. This was a website where kids were trying to get laid in college.
He's done extended bits about the life cycle of a media controversy, how a thing is said, how it's clipped, how it's contextualized, how the think pieces are written, how the apology is demanded, how the apology is given and deemed insufficient, how the news cycle moves on, and how absolutely none of it changes anything in the material world.
Social media was great the day that we all found out he was full of shit.
Yeah.
Because then everyone could make jokes.
Right.
But the 3 days before that, everyone was posturing.
Oh, so
This
much.
is on outright. But then when it came out that it was all bullshit, everyone was like, oh, let's just have fun.
Yeah.
And even though it
His critique of media isn't just that it's biased, he's suspicious of the very format. The idea that a hot take delivered within 45 minutes of an event is worth anything. The idea that engagement and insight are the same thing. He's also been pointed about the economics of it, that the media economy rewards volume and outrage over depth, that this isn't a conspiracy so much as a business model, and that the people inside it are mostly just trapped in it, producing content at the pace the algorithm demands. His victims here are specific. Certain publications, certain types of writers, certain forms of coverage. But there's a broader underlying target, which is the idea that consuming and performing opinions is the same as understanding the world. Corporate America. If Tim Dillon has a recurring enemy, a nemesis he returns to again and again with the gleeful focus of a man settling a very old score, it is corporate America. Not corporations as an abstract force, corporations as a texture.
I would love that. I'd absolutely love for a couple of days a week to just work at either a car insurance or something to just kind of have that feeling.
The specific aesthetic of corporate life, the motivational posters in the break room, the all-hands meeting where a middle manager explains that this quarter's layoffs are part of an exciting transformation.
Nothing would make me happier than for a day or two to just be part of a corporate culture again. To go in and get an email, turn around to my buddy like, hey man, he goes, you were out yesterday.
The mandatory diversity training that exists not to reduce discrimination, but to reduce liability. The company that posts a rainbow logo in June and quietly donates to politicians who oppose gay rights in July. Tim has a deep affection for the gap between what corporations say and what they do. He finds this gap almost spiritual in its consistency. No matter what you think about a particular company or industry, you can be almost certain that their public messaging is not just a distortion of the truth, but an active inversion of it. He's particularly sharp on the subject of branding the way companies have adopted the language of social justice, environmentalism, wellness, and authenticity to sell things. The energy drink that is committed to sustainability. The fast food chain that is passionate about community. The tech company whose stated mission is to make the world a better place, and whose actual business is selling your data to advertisers. His version of a corporate keynote is one of the funnier recurring performances in his act. There's a specific kind of forced enthusiasm, a particular way of using the word journey, a characteristic reference to the team that he has completely nailed. The underlying observation that modern corporate culture has dressed up exploitation and extraction in the language of empowerment isn't new. But the way Tim performs it, as this grand absurdist theater, makes it land differently than a straightforward critique. You laugh first, and then you feel vaguely ill, which is exactly the right order. The wellness industrial complex.
Now we say to the Oompa Loompas, I hope you got your Bitcoin. Oh, are you invested in crypto? No. I'm trying to make the chocolate bar. Oh, we don't do that here anymore. Sorry, the factory's in China.
Tim Dillon has also found a particularly rich vein of comedy in what might be called the wellness industrial complex. This is the ecosystem of supplements, retreats, breathwork coaches, biohackers, cold plunge enthusiasts, sensory deprivation tanks, ayahuasca ceremonies, and assorted optimization practices that have become a dominant cultural force, particularly among a certain class of affluent, coastal, educated people.
I just am thankful that I don't have to walk into an office and have to participate in that, because I did it for years, but that fake phony bullshit culture of hello and good to see you.
His ambivalence about this world is interesting because it's not simple contempt. He's been open about his own journey through sobriety, his own mental health struggles, his own experience with therapy, and various tools for managing anxiety and addiction. He's not mocking the idea of self-improvement. He's mocking the commodification of it. The version of wellness he targets is the one that costs a lot of money, involves a great deal of Instagram content, and seems primarily concerned with optimization rather than healing. The guy who does 4 hours of wellness rituals in the morning before going to work at a company that makes its employees miserable. The woman who has processed her childhood trauma through 17 different modalities, but cannot have a difficult conversation without dissociating. He's done bits about the particular language of this world, the way everything is holding space, the way trauma has become a universal currency, the way someone who was late to a meeting can describe it as dysregulation. The comedy is warmest when it comes from someone who understands the world they're satirizing, and Tim clearly does. He knows why people end up in these spaces. He just also finds them unbelievably funny. Politicians, all of them. Tim Dillon is one of the few working comedians who will genuinely go after politicians of every affiliation.
The Supreme Court also, for the most part, these social issues that everybody talks about, that obscures the fact that what the Supreme Court really does is protect the interests of multinational corporations. That's what they really do.
And he does so with a consistency that has confused and annoyed people on every part of the political spectrum, which is probably the correct outcome. His approach to political figures is not partisan. It is misanthropic in the most even-handed way possible. He does not believe that one party represents the interests of regular people and one party represents the interests of corporations. He believes both parties represent the interests of corporations, and that the culture war is largely a distraction that keeps the population too angry and too exhausted to notice. This is not an original observation, but he makes it feel viscerally present rather than intellectually abstract.
What are we supposed to do? Do what you can for the people in your life. Make the change you can. Run for something. Run for something local. Make local change. I'm not telling you to be a cynical fuck and sit in your house and do nothing.
When he talks about specific politicians, and he talks about specific politicians frequently, the through line is always the same. Here is a human being who has chosen to dedicate their life to accumulating personal power while performing concern for others, and they are extraordinarily bad at hiding it.
I mean, all of these people would want nothing to do with you. The Obamas, the Trumps, they wouldn't want anything to do with you. Can you imagine your disgusting family? Your marinara sauce covered fingers?
He's particularly interested in the theater of political outrage, the press conference, the strongly worded letter, the tweet from a senator that will result in no legislative action whatsoever. He does a version of a politician responding to a disaster that captures something true about the gap between political communication and political action. He's also funny about the personal lives, the financial arrangements, the speaking fees, the book deals, the foundation money, the revolving door, all the mechanics by which political figures convert access and influence into personal wealth while maintaining the language of public service. None of this is partisan. He'll do it to anyone. Celebrity culture, celebrity, the institution of it, the economy of it, the bizarre psychological contract it requires, is another recurring victim. Tim Dillon is one of the sharper observers of what celebrity actually is in the current era.
Here's the other thing. Let's get into this for a minute, because people on Twitter, they're like, hey, me and my boyfriend are big fans of you. I appreciate the hell out of that. Can you send him a birthday message? No. Here's why. I don't send my family birthday messages.
Which is a person who has become famous for something and now must maintain and grow that fame through constant content production, strategic controversy, brand alignment, and the performance of a personality that may or may not bear any relationship to who they actually are. He's particularly interested in celebrity philanthropy and celebrity activism, the way being famous now seems to require having a cause, the way causes become brands, the way the association between a celebrity and a cause often says more about the celebrity's publicist than about the cause. He does a version of a celebrity press release, the language of concerned engagement, the vague pledges, the foundation with a nice logo that will spend most of its money on operational costs that is incredibly specific and recognizable. He's also just funny about famous people as human beings, their quirks, their insulated lives, the way that extreme fame appears to do genuinely strange things to a person's sense of reality. He seems genuinely curious about what it does to you to have never had a normal interaction in a decade. The internet and social media. The internet has been particularly victimized by Tim Dillon, not the technological infrastructure of it. The culture, the discourse, the particular form of social pathology that platforms have rewarded and amplified.
The fame, no one cares or trusts that anyone's famous for any reason now. The American people are, they're not the brightest, but they have this raw native intelligence. They have the weird instinct because they've been fucked over so much.
He's interested in the way the internet has made everyone feel both uniquely important and uniquely powerless, how it creates the constant sensation of being in the middle of a historic event while also being completely unable to affect anything.
And it was a lot of fun. Whitney knows all these influencers, like these Instagram. Is the proper term hoes? Probably not. I'm kidding, ladies. But these Instagram the teats are out.
He's done extended material on the comment section as a social space, on the dynamics of online outrage, on the way platform mechanics have rewarded a specific type of confident, combative, content-ready personality while making everyone else feel inadequate. He's funny about the people who have built entire identities around online combat, the professional contrarian, the engagement farmer, the person who has made being correct on the internet their primary life pursuit. He's also been perceptive about the way social media has affected how people relate to their own experiences, the way events now seem to be partly lived and partly documented, the way people increasingly seem to be performing their lives for an audience that may or may not exist. Here's the thing about Tim Dillon that separates him from pure cynics. He includes himself. He is not a comedian who stands outside the world he's mocking and shakes his head at it. He is inside it. He is complicit in it. He knows it and says so. He talks about his own susceptibility to the things he mocks, his own desire for status, his own comfort with certain hypocrisies, his own capacity to rationalize. He's talked openly about addiction, about his own mental health, about the weird experience of becoming a public figure and what it does to your personality. There's a bit, or rather a recurring thread across many episodes where he essentially acknowledges that he has become, to some degree, the thing he talks about. A person with a platform, with a brand, with financial interests, navigating those interests while performing irreverence. He doesn't seem tormented by this. He seems genuinely amused by it, but he names it. This is what makes the comedy feel honest, rather than self-righteous. He's not a moralist. He's not telling you what the correct way to live is. He's describing the absurdity of the world, including the absurdity of being himself in it, and finding the whole thing extremely funny. So who are the many victims of Tim Dillon? The wealthy who confuse luck for merit, the media that confuses noise for news, the corporations that confuse branding for responsibility, the politicians who confuse performance for governance, the wellness industry that confuses monetization for healing, the celebrities who confuse fame for importance, the internet that confuses engagement for meaning, and Tim Dillon himself, who understands all of this perfectly and is going to be on a podcast about it for the next several hours. There is a long tradition of comedians as social critics, people who use humor to say true things that are too uncomfortable to say straight. Mark Twain, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, Lenny Bruce. The list is long. Tim Dillon sits somewhere in that tradition with his own specific coordinates. He is a product of the internet era, of the podcast era, of the post-2008 collapse of trust in institutions. He's watched the systems that were supposed to serve regular people fail those people spectacularly. And he's made the decision to find that funny not because it isn't serious, but because laughter might be the only response that doesn't make you crazy. He is one of the sharper observers of American life working today. And his victims, the institutions, the ideologies, the postures, the self-deceptions, probably deserve everything they get. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching.